to try to make a change in health, visual health. We have for our session a great team, women, women with women's sensitivity. We have Ellie. Ellie, would you like to stand up so that they identify you? Ellie Southwood is from Fight for Sight. She is the chair of the Royal National Institute of Blind People. And she gives accessible and adaptable homes for disabled people in England. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have Kira Baldonado. She's president of Public Health and Policy and Prevent Blindness. Hello. Welcome. She's one of the 50 most influential women in optics. She was honored in 2023, so that is wonderful. Thank you very much for your outreach and the work you do with the equity and the patient engagement. And of course, we have Suzanne Chambers. She was an optometrist who became a producer. And she works in media, and she's in Wise Goat, and she makes stories, human stories that impact with movies that have been on Netflix, and I think she would have a lot to share with us. And we also have in the panel, thank you very much, she is a board of trustees of the IAPB. She's a member A, and she is the CEO of Vision Springs. Welcome. She has done over 25 years of international development experience and benefited close to 12 million people with eyeglasses. So welcome, welcome. We have a wonderful team. The idea is to echo the voices of those testimonies we heard this morning. There are many stories, individual stories, that go unheard, unseen. And one of the strategies that may make a difference and has, as we will hear, impacted is to catalyze, to build upon those voices of customers and patients and give them an echo throughout society, throughout the medical community, to motivate and set the stage for the pain involved in unnecessary blindness and eye impairment. So with that, I would like to ask you, why would it be important to give an echo to these voices? I mean, who cares? How can you make people actually care?
I'll dive in. Make sure that's on. So I don't want to just give an echo to the voices. I want to give them a platform and build that platform with them. So it's something they're comfortable being a part of. It makes a difference when you have the individuals that are impacted by what's being discussed, whether that's creating a new resource, talking about prevention of vision loss, or addressing issues and conditions where it does impact vision impairment and blindness. You have to have the individuals that are impacted at the table for it to be truly meaningful, for it to be integrated, and for it to have the right kind of impact. We as an organization, we've been around for a while, 116 years. And we started at Prevent Blindness as the voice of the consumer, and we were the voice of vision. And now our vision is vision with the individuals. We're no longer for, we're with. And that's been a significant change for us as an organization, is that we are led by the individuals, and they're taking us to amazing places. That's exactly why we should give them a platform.
Now, giving them a platform doesn't involve giving them content. You have to respect what they have to say and somehow bring it to the forefront. How do you do that, Ellie?
Yeah, sure. So at Fight for Sight, we live and breathe the experiences of blind and vision impaired people. So that starts for us in the organization we are. So our executive leadership team, our board, our staff team, people who volunteer with us. We have lots of different experiences. So some people like myself who've always been blind since birth, people who are losing their sight. So every so often are experiencing reduction in sight and learning to do things differently all over again. And I also have a colleague who has an eye condition, which means she may lose her sight any day. Those experiences are at the heart of our organization because we believe fundamentally it matters who is at the table, who is making decisions, who is creating the space to hear a diversity of opinions for people who are blind or vision impaired, or who perhaps have a rare genetic condition which might mean they go blind one day. And that feeds right into how we make our grants. So we have two funding programs. We fund scientific research, basic science, discovery science, and we also fund social programs. So we are here to answer two questions that anybody who is told they're losing their sight or the child is losing their sight will be asking an ophthalmologist or a clinical practitioner. They'll be saying, can it be stopped? Can it be slowed down? And they'll also be saying, if I do lose some or all of my sight, what sort of life can I expect? And we fund programs and projects that have positive answers to both of those questions, and we involve people with lived experience of vision loss in deciding what we fund. On the social side, and alongside our panel of expert scientists who advise us on what we should fund in terms of scientific research, we will also be involving patients in helping our scientists understand why the work they do really matters.
I see you nodding, Ella. What do you do?
I'm nodding because Ellie I had written a note to myself that hearing our customers' voices and being in the community is the mother front of innovation. And that is just what Ellie has described, that pushing the frontier of scientific discovery through the voice and the lens of those who it's going to benefit drives us all to iterate and adapt and improve. Vision Spring is a social enterprise. We sit in the constructive tension of being a nonprofit and having sales targets. When you have sales targets, it shifts the power dynamic because we have to come with a value proposition. And who has the power in the transaction is not Vision Spring. It is the customer who has chosen to paddle down river, to walk 5 miles, to come and get their sight checked. And we have to offer a service and a product that is worth their time and their discretionary income. Whether that income is 50 cents or $3 or whatever the radically affordable price we are asking people to contribute. And so ultimately, hearing the customer voice means we are not approaching them as beneficiaries. We are approaching them as customers, and it is their input and their decision to purchase or not purchase which drives us to constantly improve the offering and how we show up.
What do you sell?
Eyeglasses. So ultimately, it's vision screening. Since you've asked, well, I want to come back to two of those. So I'll come back to the glasses in just a second. But
okay. Go. Suzanne, please, in your experience.
Yeah, well, look, I'm an optometrist, but I come from a different, perspective in making film and television. I believe that if you want people to listen, you've got to make it interesting, and I believe in the power of storytelling. You can influence millions of people all at once around the world, through watching something that's meaningful with social impact. And so what I did, through my feature film, My Eyes, which was my latest feature film, some of you did see that last night, it was like a love letter to our industry, and also a way to touch people, not just in our industry, but also the general public, about eye care, about the simple message of getting your child's, vision tested. How we came to that in terms of inclusiveness is we have vision impaired, people in front and behind the camera. You saw Eduardo, he was on there. He was one of my actors in the film. And I took over 12 months to find someone. I pushed back on all the distributors and the financiers saying, you must get an A-list cast member to be in your film. And I went, no, I am going to get a real life, someone with a vision impairment to play that Judah character, because that was what happened in real life, and I want to get someone like that because it's really important for them to have that voice. And also in development, we actually had a lot of, vision impaired, consultants. One of my writers is also vision impaired. So we really put them as key creatives. As I said, even though I'm an optometrist, it's my story, but again, it's really important to have that representation so they have that voice. And yeah, we spent over 2 years reaching out to organisations around the world in terms of disability, eye care, to really back the story, because we really want to make sure that it gets told, that it gets the eyeballs, I know it's a pun, to see the film, to raise that awareness. So yes.
Now there are 3 types of people. A third of the people tend to destroy, tend to be negative. Third of the people have resilience, and they are the power makers and the change makers. And 40% of the population couldn't care less. We did several studies in risk and resilience, and it keeps repeating. So when we talk about a strategy such as this, catalyzing the voices, we hear the people who are resilient, who are positive thinkers, who are the change makers. But the strategy has to include the reality that we will have people who will try to build blocks or think negatively or go against your idea. How do you handle that counteraction? Yes, please.
Thank you. It's Ellie speaking. You're absolutely right. Not everybody cares. Not every blind or vision impaired person cares about research or cares about being involved. But we have to be really careful. And over the years, I have definitely experienced hearing the same people being asked again and again and again what their views are. And they are the resilient people. They're the people who've put their hands up, who've stood up, who want to be part of it. It's not representative. And there's a huge risk for all of our organizations that we listen to people who volunteer and we say, well, it's all fine then because they like it and they've been part of it. The challenge here is creating space for people who do feel negative, do feel let down perhaps had really negative experiences with clinicians in the past. Nobody at this conference, of course, but perhaps in the past they have had negative experiences. Blind and vision impaired people come from a history of being shut out, of not being invited, of being patronized, of people assuming that we can't do anything. And so it's not surprising today that when we invite people to participate, we don't always get a lot of volunteers. There's a lot of work for us to do to build an inclusive culture which makes people feel welcome and which says that, even if you have a negative view, even if you feel really fed up, we still need to hear it because we cannot move forward with the services and products that we're developing unless we hear from a wide range of people. And by the way, that includes people from underrepresented groups who sometimes experience a double disadvantage. So they may be blind, they also may be queer, they also may be from a community that is finding it even harder to access diagnosis and treatments.
Thank you very much, Ellie. Ella?
The idea of where the blocks are, I think there's also where the block can often come for accessing care from the customers themselves. And what I want to address is fear and stigma and lack of knowledge. And so many of us are working in communities where maybe less than 20% of the people who have the eye services they need actually have them. There's lots of reasons for that. There's problems on the supply side. Product is not affordable, it's not available, et cetera. But there are problems on the demand side. And so we have done some research in a number of places, and I'll just share a little bit with you, which is that 50% of people are self-conscious about wearing eyeglasses. They don't want the divot on their nose. They don't want to be the only one wearing eyeglasses. They don't want to stand out. So we have to think about the ways that we normalize eyeglasses wearing. 30% of people in rural Bangladesh think that eyeglasses will make your eyes weaker. Take that into Ghana, people think that your eyes will shrink, actually get smaller if you wear eyeglasses. Other people believe that glasses are like braces. You can wear them for a short time and fix your eyes and then take them off. And so a lot of the things that we have to do, we talk about raising awareness. Awareness is only the beginning of the customer journey. We have to have the discovery that we have to help customers and people go through the journey of discovering that they have a vision impairment issue that they want to get diagnosed or discovered or understood. But then they have to decide to go. And if they are going to decide to go, they cannot be afraid. And to the point, and one of the things, we do a lot of work in workplaces. So if we are in an environment where there is an employer, this could be truck drivers. We have screened more than 600,000 truck drivers and transportation workers. We have screened an additional 600,000 factory workers. They are all afraid of getting fired. They are afraid of losing their jobs. So if we show up as service providers and we screen people without offering the service of eyeglasses, we risk weaponizing vision screening and creating a disability exclusion moment where the human resources departments can release people for having been found to have a vision impairment. We as service providers have to go in and with a protective mindset to make sure that employers wouldn't take advantage. And that is ultimately from listening to employees and drivers and factory workers who express their concern that they will lose their livelihood. And our job with eyeglasses is to improve earning and learning and safety, not the other way around.
I wanted to touch on how we make sure people are prepared. One of the things that we do at Prevent Blindness is to provide a training program for individuals with vision impairment, parents of children, allies such as researchers and others, to provide them with a training to understand what's happened to them, where they are, what they can do with their story, and how they can have influence. We've seen time and again that there's a pattern there, that people come to the program looking for hope. That's always the first thing. What is the hope that I have with where I am in my vision journey? Once they acquire that hope, then we see next, they go for community. Individuals get together for some, it's the first time they've talked to another individual with a similar condition, a similar experience. So they build community and they see it's okay to open up and to be brave and be vulnerable. Once you're vulnerable and you're sharing your story and you know the power behind it, then you connect with purpose. Once you have a purpose to use your story, it can be to influence legislation, it can be to influence a community to make changes. It can be an influence to help somebody down the road from yourself, or just have a better relationship with your provider. But once you have that purpose, watch out. People are ready to take action. And people ready to take action want to be involved. And that's how you deal with the negative. Get those individuals that are trained and empowered placed where those negative people are to create the change.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, well, I guess with those barriers and with the film, we intentionally made it entertaining so that we can actually capture, I guess, the non-believers or the people who are unaware by creating a heartfelt family drama that ultimately is about unconditional love. We specifically got cast from different parts of the globe because we wanted to reach different people. So Adam Garcia, for all the middle-aged women who, in the UK who love Adam Garcia, we've got him. We have, Q Chin, who again is Asian American icon, right? Obviously Eduardo is Latin America, and obviously is well renowned in that area. So we specifically cast for a reason to reach different territories, but also too so that, again, we're not preaching through the film. It's very underlyingly about eye care and subtly brings that message of, hey, this is important. If you actually do have this condition or your child has this condition, how do you as a parent go through this? How does a child go through this? And also to, I guess, address barriers, we want to hit young people. So often with films that I make, we actually create study guides as well. So these study guides actually get distributed. They're actually written by teachers. They're embedded into the curriculum so that in schools, universities, education institutions around the world, they download the film, they get the film, they watch it, and they actually write essays and discuss about issues that are underlyingly there. So we're targeting people at that base as well. Yeah.
Very interesting. Now we'd like to hear your opinion. We're using this app. We'll have a question for you. The question will be, how actively does your organization incorporate patient consumer voice in the eye care policy and programs? You have several options. You have very actively, somewhat actively, not very actively, not at all, or unsure. They missed out on the unicorn. What the answer is, or how many of you actually use this? This is interesting. In Latin America, we don't give voices to the people. It's like it's still they're not part of the community. It's as if they're unseen. It isn't even bad, but it's not good. It's like they're outcasts.
Of shame, I think, in some cultures with disability, right?
Okay,
so.
Not at all. Yeah, that's what happens. We have not used this strategy. And it is important. I find it a step-by-step, your experience is showing us how we can use it. It has to do with giving them a voice, respecting what they say, which may be negative, and respecting it, and the next step was?
Give them a purpose.
Give them a purpose, okay. So I'm going to give you a purpose. I want you to go and be a peer promoter and talk in the community. Talk to your friends. Do you have any friends? We have communities here that have genetic problems. And so many of the people in the community have the same problem. And giving them a voice, then go and talk to them and bring them, and then?
And then oh, sorry.
Oh, well, you bring them together, let them have their voice, give them hope, community, and purpose is the rhythm.
Okay, hope.
And I think find ways to be clear that you respect that voice. So we have talked about it before, but also thinking about, is your organization able to compensate people for sharing their experiences?
Yes, yeah, here.
It is not the job of a blind or vision impaired person to go around sharing their story unless they would like to do that. And so we do pay our people with lived experience who help us decide what social grants to make. And I appreciate that is not going to be possible for all organizations, but perhaps there's something you could give in return. Perhaps there's something you could give that tells somebody, I respect you, I value you, and in fact, we would like to offer you this training opportunity, for example. Would you like to work alongside some of our ophthalmologists? Would you like to talk to some of our ophthalmologists to help them better understand? So I think there is a way to add value to people, even if it's not financial, that puts everybody on a level playing field. And I am always quite careful about the language as well, because I think everybody does have a voice, and I think the responsibility is to create spaces for them to feel able to speak up, and where the thing we do in return is we listen.
I just wanted to add on to that, that one of the things we do as an organization is make sure that we give stipends or provide support in different ways for individuals to share their story. And that's
glasses,
so critical.
give them glasses.
If that's what their need is, we can do that. But making sure that they have, that we're representing the value that their story represents, but also as organizations, we need to advocate for that with others out in the community. If somebody comes and asks us, do we have patient with glaucoma that can come and speak on XYZ? We as an organization say, we need to make sure that you are going to compensate them for their time and respect their story. What format that presentation is going to be in is accessible to them, and help them understand what accessibility means, because that helps to open up their eyes to engaging other individuals with vision loss or blindness.
If I can riff on this idea of so there's one which is hear all voices and the compensation and the recognition. The other element of this is the dignity, right? And there's two ways that we can programmatically address dignity in terms of trying to weave it into how we design what we do. One is the quality of service up to this? Are we offering a quality service that meets the person as a human, not as an eyeball? Right? We get very focused in the eye sector on the eyeball. So how are we interacting? That means training our mobilizers and the people at registration who welcome you into a vision camp or to registration to have a smile and say hello. If somebody is expressing concern, to pick up on the hesitation. These are soft skills that we teach our people, because we are not treating an eyeball. We are serving a human. The other element, and I'm going to come to eyeglasses because they're in my hand and I'm going to put them down in a second. But
she's a saleswoman for sure.
I want to talk about the objections for a minute and this issue of negative voices. If we don't listen to the negative of voices, they do push-ups in the corner and get stronger. We have to surface objections. We have to surface the concern, which means inviting hard conversations. The other element in terms of customer feedback that we have learned a lot from is we all spend a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of effort getting into community, doing the vision screening. And the question when it comes to eyeglasses is, do people actually want to wear them? And so the dignity of choice has to be woven into our procurement practices. It needs to be woven into our product offering. And I'm going to give you an example. If I'm working in Bangladesh with garment workers, they like a little bit of bling on the side of their temple and the rhinestone. However, if I am a rural woman in Bangladesh, I want the glasses to be almost invisible. I don't want to stand out with the glasses on my face, and I want something that is gold and small and will almost disappear, but will match maybe with my jewelry. If I am a child, you better believe I don't want to wear black glasses. So I happen to be wearing pink today. I was in a pink mood. So I grabbed a pair of children's glasses that are two-toned that might be part of an offering that children can wear. We have made the mistake once before of just providing different colors to different people. You ever heard the phrase, you get what you get and you don't get upset? That is not the way to do eye care. If you are in West Africa, the faces are larger and bigger. You have to offer glasses that are going to fit and be comfortable and fit with the fashion views. So the point is that what we look like and how we show up, people want to feel dignified. They don't want to feel embarrassed wearing their glasses. And so we need to offer the dignity of choice, and that is a programmatic design choice.
Now, this is very interesting. We had, of course, when you offer retro lenses and they can do away with their eyeglasses, we found that people said, no, I need the frame so that I can limit what I see. It's very interesting. I couldn't believe it. But we're offering you sight, full sight, without the glasses, no, I want to have my reference. I know this is what I need. And when we talk about sight, and several of you mentioned the word hope, and I think in a world of such hopelessness, to waken hope in people is very difficult if there is nothing you can really offer. If I can offer them glasses to see reality, is it really hopeful? I mean, it's like, yes, there is, we have insight, we have hindsight, we have foresight, we have different depths in sight, which people who cannot see fully understand, much like the Eskimos with the different shades of white they have. Non-seeing people perceive in the same way, in perhaps the same way, in a different tone, a different color, perhaps a different way. But it doesn't mean that they can't. And I think what we perceive is very important. And here we're talking about trying to sell them hope. And that in itself, if we cannot stick to it or be accountable to that promise, we run the risk of high expectations. How many times the patients come in to the doctors, to surgery, and but I can't see. Well, what is it that we were selling that they thought that they could see or not see? Or it's very hard when you talk about hope. How do you deal with that? One last comment, please.
Yeah. It's such an important question. So we're always really careful about using the word cure. And I certainly have personal friends and know through my professional life people who have spent a lot of their life in search of a cure. And families who have taken their children not only to Mexico, but all over the world to look for cures. And I think there's a real balance, and we describe ourselves at Fight for Sight as informed optimists. And that means we are hopeful, we expect better, we expect new treatments, we expect more equity in diagnosis, and we expect that if you are blind or vision impaired, you can lead a fabulous life. And that's what I really loved about Suzanne's film, which some of us had the pleasure of seeing yesterday, was that the little girl in that film was not broken. Her parents did not think she was broken. They did their best, but actually, we don't know at the end of the film. We don't know. And so that doesn't matter. So it is about the kind of what it does to the relationships around it, but I think it's a beautiful example of balancing. You know, being blind is not a lifestyle choice. This is true. Equally, being blind can be a full and fulfilling life. And so that's how we try to manage that sense of hope, of optimism, and that remains even if you lose some or all of your sight.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Ellie. Yeah, that was forefront of our mind, actually, in developing the screenplay for it. It took us 2 years to try to get that balance right. It took, table reads with actors, not just obviously to work out the intricacies of the story, but also to allow our vision impaired colleagues feedback because they couldn't read. So we recorded that to give, get their input for it. But it was a very fun line. Does she or doesn't she? Do they get back together? Do they not get back together? But the whole point of story, and this is what I guess we are very in tune to as humans. We're used to the whole, intro, and then there's a conflict, and then all is lost moment, and then the climax and whatever happens at the end. And we wanted something that was heartfelt and felt good to give people hope as well. That was very, very important.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to touch on the importance of the having a social structure as well and what it can do for hope. A good example, and I'll tell you a story, just we're in a story theme, so I'll tell you a story. We had a group of individuals from our training program that came to DC recently, just last month. And these are individuals who are blind and visually impaired. Some of them, this is the first time they've traveled since they've lost sight, but they did it for this group, so that was the power of community. So individuals came, and some were advanced in advocacy, some were comfortable in the situation, some were not. And there was one woman who, in particular, she was of grandmother age, and she said, I don't know why I'm here. She didn't have the right kind of hope to be in that room. And there were other individuals in the program that surrounded her. The program director recognized it and asked particular mentors to come and sit with her, be there through the meetings, talk to her, help her shape her hope, and give her a reason, help her shape her story. So that by the time we were taking those advocates up to Capitol Hill to ask for changes in policy and establish laws, she said, I know why I'm here. The cure, the program may not be for me, is for my grandchildren. She has hope for her grandchildren. And let me tell you, she was the loudest voice in those meetings. Wow. So it can happen really quick, but having that social power is critical, maybe sometimes to finding that hope.
Beautiful.
I think all of us, I'm nodding proficiently. I think all of us in this room have hope, and all of us are called to work in the vision space because it is a fabulously hopeful sector to be in. There are not a lot of things that are so instantaneous as a cataract surgery or eyeglasses. It is everyday magic to not see and see in seconds. There are lots of things in the world that are intractable, hard problems. We are not really working on an intractable problem that is unsolvable. We are working on one that is solvable. That can give us all hope. But because every day we can see progress. But I think the other one is the link. It's not about the cataract surgery or about the glasses. It's about everything that comes afterwards.
It's about caring.
And it's about the livelihoods, and it's about the education, and it's about the safety, and it's about seeing the grandchild's face, and it's about well-being and independence and confidence, everything that comes after the intervention. And so the link, the hope comes when somebody hasn't seen their Bible and now they are reconnected with their God. It comes when somebody who is a master artisan, and there's an incredible indigenous group out here who's got beautiful textiles if you hadn't seen them, but there is a cruelty in the idea that presbyopia emerges at the peak of somebody's mastery of their craft and their trade. And only for the want of a simple pair of reading glasses have they lost their productivity and the ability to produce the most beautiful artistry. And so the hope, in fact, comes from the simplicity of the solution and from the immediacy with which somebody can return to their state of higher functioning, productivity, income, well-being, independence, et cetera.
Wow, beautiful, beautiful. Well, another question for you all in your app. What is the biggest challenge your organization faces in integrating the patient-consumer voice? Now we have several options. Lack of resource, whether it be time, money, personnel. Resistance to change within the organization. Difficulty in reaching and engaging patients and consumers. Measuring the impact of patient-consumer input, or any others? We'll see the answer. How are we doing with time? Nobody's checking.
What's the most popular answer in the poll?
So we have here, lack of resources, time, money, personnel. Okay. Difficulty reaching and engaging patients and measuring impact. Now, this, yes, please. Yes, yes. I think you touched something very important. When we talk about hope and envisioning hope, we have to imagine it. Imagine that it may be possible. It's incredible. And I think that is something that the disabled community is teaching us. They're teaching us exactly how to imagine, how to reimagine the world, how to perhaps change our own scope of the world and see things from a different angle. I think we have much to learn from people who are disabled, visually disabled. I think I almost feel like profound gratitude, because it is that is bringing us together with this hope of helping and saving the world, and that is what we need in the world today of hopelessness. So having people share their impairment, their vulnerability, makes us all touch upon our own vulnerability and makes us more human, more human. I commend you all for the work you've been doing and are doing, and I would ask you to leave the audience with a final message, please. Ellie?
Oh. Wow, I get to go first, oh dear. Okay, I think that's really beautifully put. I also think it's important to always do it with dignity. So sometimes it can be really hard work being blind or vision impaired, and an additional burden of needing to tell people around you your story over and over again, or to, teach them how things could be different. Sometimes that burden feels very heavy. Not every day, not every hour of every day, but it's also really okay sometimes for somebody who is blind or vision impaired to say, thank you, that was a really interesting, curious question. But you know what? I'm not able today to talk to you about that, but I'm really happy to have a conversation in future. Because, for example, they might be preparing a presentation. They might be feeling anxious about an unrelated hospital appointment they have later. So I think it's really important to remember that we all are living full lives, and being blind is not necessarily the most important thing in somebody who's blind's life. It may be for others around us at that point, but it's not necessarily for us. Dignity is really important. Imagination and creativity are key, but I don't think that's entirely the responsibility of people with lived experience. I think what's wonderful about this conference is that everybody has pitched up to this session, clearly feels that they would like to do more. I also think it's okay to acknowledge that it can feel really, I think there's a lot of fear of saying something wrong, fear of embarrassing someone, fear of getting it wrong, fear of tripping someone up on a step. All of those things are real. And you know what? They are the foundation of the human connection. And it's totally fine to express that fear. And for those of us who are blind and vision impaired, to recognize that we meet you where you are. Your organization may never have engaged or tried to produce services with blind people before. That's okay. Because step one is thinking about how you would like to do it, and it is about starting where you are.
How beautiful, how beautiful, beautiful. Suzanne, please.
Yeah, well, just addressing the biggest challenge it seems about reaching people and getting through, I would say be creative, think outside the box, and see what the everyday people that you're trying to reach, how do they attain information. Keep it interesting. You want them to listen, you've got to keep it interesting. That's the best way. And again, with addressing what Ellie said about fear, don't worry about people saying no. If you feel really passionate about it, you keep going, you go for it, you find a different way around it. And perseverance matters. And yes, just keep going till someone says yes. That's what I did.
Thank you.
I just want to say be very open and vulnerable in any approach that you're taking with patients and individuals. And that vulnerability and openness to learn, to change what you're doing, to think of something differently will help them to open up, but also create a beautiful sense of togetherness that comes through that. So being vulnerable yourself. The vulnerability comes like saying, okay, we're going to create something in a different way. We're going to let the patients, the individuals, lead us through this. That's a vulnerability because maybe you have a deadline, maybe you have a funder, but always take the time to get insight, input, and leadership from individuals. I can guarantee, and one of the concerns up there was measuring impact. I can guarantee what you put out in vulnerability will come back to you in waves, both from individuals being involved to funding, that was another concern that was up there, to opportunities to grow and thrive. So be open to that and put out your vulnerability. It will come back to you and support in waves. Just as a quick example, we as an organization have been advocating for appropriations for the Centers for Disease Control for years, and we're talking decades asking for this. The moment that we twisted what we did and brought individuals to Capitol Hill and just really drove it with their stories, our appropriations increased. Now, maybe it was an administration, maybe it was some other thing, but I know the stories had an impact. We were able to introduce our first legislation ever as an organization because of the stories. So it will come back to you in waves, and be open. You won't regret it.
I want to first thank Suchen for creating a piece that will cut through on behalf of all of us. So thank you for that and bringing attention to the experience. And then picking up on what Ellie had said and the idea of starting where you are, I think one of the barriers people felt was, it's expensive, or how do you measure the result? You can start small, and it can start in-house. So with the idea we go out externally to start with customers, we all have customer-facing team members, and often they are junior people. 75% of Vision Spring's team are millennial and Gen Z. Let me tell you, they have things to say and opinions that we should be asking them about. So we can start in-house by asking our customer-facing team members about what they experience. That's cheap and fast. The other one is then building in customer feedback. So it's not enough to ask once. We often over-design and over-architect surveys, and those are expensive. But there are really easy ways to be lean. And it has to be continual. It's a continual feedback loop that we are asking for, because we are always going to be improving based on the customer feedback. And so I think the commitment to constantly adapt and relentlessly improve based on the input of the customers and the communities that we are serving is both a value and a discipline. And we can do that.
Well, thank you very much. Very inspiring. Please, a round of applause. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Very touching. Leaves you thinking, so much to do in our Latin American countries especially. And it reminded me, Casey in Singapore, she came up on stage with Christmas lights on. And she asked the lights to be turned off, and she turned on the Christmas lights on her shirt. I thought that was wonderful. And she said, this is just to show you that each of you, each one of us, if connected, can be a little light, in the hope, in the building of hope. Each one from whatever stage we're at, whatever country, whatever challenges we face, but it's worth it if we can actually change people. And the feeling of doing good, I think it works both ways. I'm just as benefited as they are. So a round of applause, please, for a wonderful session, a lot of reflection, catalyzing patient and consumer voices in eye care. Thank you so much for your warmth and for sharing such intimate and personal stories. Now we're going to cut for break. We are going to announce that after this session you have till 1:45 for lunch. So that gives us 75 minutes. just be aware that we have a lovely poster session outside, an exhibition space. We're just talking about the indigenous textiles. Well, that was actually Joel's mother, and actually she makes them. So yes, she was able to make them after we helped her eyesight, and that's a good example of a little bit of hope. So we invite you later to please look at your event app and put your thumbs up on the poster you would like to commend. We will be giving awards to the best posters, so we urge you to please walk through the sessions and, well, enjoy your lunch break. We'll see you in 75 minutes. Oh, we do? Oh, we have time. Okay. So, do you have a microphone, please? So, we have a couple minutes more. I am going to ask you now and have the answers if you have a question. Yes, please.
Thank you for the previous sessions. They are very encouraging, and then really IAPP deserves congratulations for highlighting the patients and their families' voices, you know. Because the tendency to reduce a person to a condition, a disease condition, and not see the individual, you know. This was such an important event here that we saw the individual, and they have achieved far more than what we think people could even dream.
Yes.
So that was one really powerful message I got. And the second thing I wanted to say is your question about hope. You know, the hope for most visually impaired or blind people it's not an immediate emergency thing that happened. They've been living with this condition. All they expect is a little bit of respect. You know, respect is deserving. When you pride in saying that, well, we have a 1 kilometer long patients waiting, who's inflaming the ego of the doctor? Or does he even provide good care for that many patients at that time? It's just a eyewash. It's all sham. It's false. So this is why this is a disgrace, you know. And then saying I'm a god of sight and posing your picture and see in front of 100 people and saying, glorifying yourself, those are the ego and those kinds of things. That is what we need to root out, you know. So I guess I saw enough, said enough, I think. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was lovely. And yes, in our hospital, we have so many patients, and you just run one after the other, and they only treat the eye. They don't treat the patient. They don't treat the vision. They don't.
If I may add one more point.
Yes, please.
So ironically, we talk about sustainability of our programs. The sustainability of the program is dependent on the revenues we generate from the visually impaired and the blind people. And if we disrespect them, if we do not take care of them, we do more harm than good, what kind of message will they give? It's poor quality only. If you have a poor quality, business is poor quality, the consumer is not happy, will they come back to you? Then we wonder, why is the acceptance rate so low? So this is why I think if we were to be sustainable, we need to provide safety and then quality.
And respect.
And respect. And dignity, you said, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say 110%, 1,000%, absolutely.
Thumbs up.
Super thumbs up to all of that.
Can I also just add to that as well? Just in relation to patients and you know, being back to back. I know being an optometrist and yes, you know, people are running a business and you need to see patients and some practices do churn them through. I know, again, it comes down to a resource problem. Because if they didn't have all those financial pressures, they wouldn't be pushing it onto the clinicians. And because I know as a clinician, it's exhausting. You're mentally, like you can only take so much per day before you get tired. And most of us come into the profession because we actually do care. You know, we do want to help. And a lot of us, we just, because of the way we have to churn things through at the beginning, it does put us off, you know, in terms of that retail environment where we have to churn things through. And I know, again, just a different perspective, you know, I've volunteered in many third world countries in eye care, and I know for me, I feel a lot of pressure having line of people waiting, you know, as example, when I was in Bangladesh, waiting for me to look at their eyes, because it was only me. There was meant to be an ophthalmologist, there wasn't one, and the helplessness that I felt that I couldn't do enough. And I was tired, and I was working 6 days a week, very long hours, trying to help as much as I could. And so I think, you know, again, resources was an issue. You know, having funding, where is the money being allocated? Is it actually allocated to the right places and the right people? And often it's not. You know, it's not in the right places that we need it, and that's another thing that obviously needs to be addressed.
Thank you.
Can
Go
I jump
ahead,
in on the
please.
resources point too, which is a lot of us are in environments where we are talking. Oh, sorry, did Ellie want to go? I'm looking at some. Oh, there's another question. Okay, I'll just jump on that sentence and then. So a lot of us are in environments where the donors and funders are scrubbing our budgets. And it's okay to look at budgets. I look at budgets. We're all looking to cut our budgets. But there is a certain point where you're down to the knuckle. And I can tell you the number of times where a corporate partner has said, can you make the glasses cheaper? And you're like, you don't want your name on cheaper glasses. They will break in 2 to 3 months. They are not worth the time, the effort, or the customer experience of having those glasses break. If we are not the ones standing up for the quality of service, the other thing, well, can't you see more people? Well, we can, but we will need to double staff. Or we're going to need to split the line and do pre-screening and screening. Or there are ways that we can innovate around it, but we have to ask for the resources. And I think often donors don't always want to hear the hard answer, which is quality service to a minimum service standard costs money. And there is a certain element of racing to the bottom on price where the compromise on quality erodes the overall achievement of solving the problem at scale.
Thank you. You wanted to say?
Yes, I'm agree with all of you because...
Would you like to present yourself first? So
yes, sure. I'm Dr. Luz Maria Ortiz from Chihuahua, Mexico, and I have studied community I had at London School of Hygiene many years ago. And I see things don't change because there is not a plan. And the action should be so glued with the plan when you do education, when you do all this. We have talked about sustainability, accessibility, quality, and in order to really do the plan, we will move on. I see this everywhere in Mexico where people is always expecting for free cataract surgery, free glasses, and all that comes with the low quality service and the bunch of blindness that we have at this point. So I think this is everywhere in the world because we are a lot of ophthalmologists and many of us are not sensible to this education plan.
Can I talk about
very much.
customer? I think you're hitting on such an important point, which is the expectation and how we as a sector set the expectation. The eye care ophthalmologists and optometrists have done an extraordinary job of creating eye care as a luxury item with the expectation that eyeglasses and surgery is going to be really expensive. Or exactly as you described, which is the exact opposite, which is that eye care will always be free. And there is a place for free, and obviously there's a place for luxury care. But if we are going to solve the problem of 1 billion people needing vision correction, we are going to have some kind of solution that is going to be market-based and that will also potentially be subsidized and be low cost, but where we are inviting customers and patients to be part of the solution, blending that revenue with other sources so that the quality of care can be maintained. But one of the things that we find when people want to come to a vision camp, one of the reasons they don't come is the price, or to a pharmacy to get glasses. One of the reasons they don't come is because they are expecting the glasses to cost $35 to $70. The price expectation is the problem, not the actual price. The actual price in the pharmacy is $1.50 to $2.50. They can afford, people will pay 1 to 2 days' wages for the immediate benefit of vision correction. We know this across many countries. It is evidenced. But but we are slow to shift our practices.
Thank you. Please, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I'm Dr. Gillian Cochran from Collaborative Vision, and the name in the organisation tells you what we do. It's all about having people with lived experience as part of the expertise in co-design. Picking up from Dr. Ara, who just spoke earlier there, the planning is really critical to have people with lived experience as part of the planning. So for in Papua New Guinea, where I support work there, the Prevention of Blindness Committee, when we're doing the National Eye Plan and the strategic plan, the operational plan of that National Eye Health Plan, we ensured that people with lived experience were in that room. And to have them, you know, the people with different classes of disability, so not just people living with vision impairment, but living with other classes of disability in that room, and their voices are heard, and their voices are key drivers, and they're a key part of every single part of the decision making. So we have, like, poster 48, that picture right at the top. We have several people with different classes of disability in that room making decisions with everybody else. And I think that's really critical if we want to see change. Just having people with lived experience with vision impairment and blindness sitting beside an ophthalmologist who seems to have forgotten that it's about the whole person and the whole community. And I think that's a really critical point. I was optometrist originally as well, and we're brought up, we're taught in that biomedical model of loss. And we're not here to cure things. We don't fix things. And it's about teaching, actually, communities as well to change that expectation of when they turn up at a hospital that they think the doctor's going to fix it. The doctor and the practitioners are there to identify and to discuss what the condition is and to manage the expectations of how people can live with that condition. And perhaps they can give something that can help it, that can improve vision immediately with a pair of glasses. But the vast majority of people who come through, especially in a low-resource setting, have multiple comorbidity. They are late presentation, and the opportunity to give a good, quick result that is fantastic is low. But for every single person living with vision impairment and blindness, then they're not going to get a result when they turn up at an eye clinic. And they need to be part of a referral cycle to everybody else. So having counselors, having people with lived experience in the eye clinic. So we're designing a new centre for eye health, which is Fred Hollows in New Zealand, and in Papua New Guinea, and we pushed so hard to ensure that there is a dedicated room for a counsellor with vision impairment to be in that room for every single patient who requires it at that time, not some appointment later, at that time when they are there, so that when they are given an outcome that is devastating for them and they don't know how they're going to move forward, they have people with lived experience who are sitting there as the mentors and supporting of them. And that's critical when we're talking about clinical care. And it's critical to understand it's a referral cycle, not a pathway, and that doctors and clinicians, we're just a tiny, tiny, tiny little cog in a piece with all the multiple disciplinary support people that are there. And I think that's really critical to have that as part of your planning. Thank you.
I just want to comment on that I applaud you advocating for having that counseling at the point of diagnosis. I mentioned earlier that our engagement with patients has taken us to different areas that we had not yet considered as an organization. One of those areas was really the intersection of vision loss and mental wellness. What does that mean? And so we actually took the step of bringing together focus groups of individuals with mental health professionals, with eye care professionals, to understand what the issues were, what are the barriers, what needs to be done. And it's huge. We really do need to pay attention to that in all aspects of our work. But it has led us as an organization to first kind of create this sort of issue brief of what needs to happen. And now those members of the task force are working on educational modules for mental health professionals, because we found that many individuals who are mental health professionals weren't prepared to deal with the issues that come with vision loss and blindness. But also that our eye care provider community doesn't have the script and the language and the comfort levels to be referring to mental health providers. And also we learned a little bit about the timing. At the point of diagnosis works for some but not others. Others it's a week later, like there was a specific amount of time that they needed to process a diagnosis and think, this is impacting my mental health, and that's the point of time. So there's so many things that came to us because we engaged patients, individuals, the stakeholders that we wanted to impact, and now it's having this ripple effect of what we want to do as an organization. So, good example.
We're talking about cost benefit, and it led me to think our hospital, Conde de Valenciana, is one of the 5 main hospitals here in the city. And unfortunately, we have 2 million people with visual disability in the country, and 1 million has potential access and could be preventable if we could reach them. We have a clinic where we give it almost non-profit, and another one where we do charge. And we try to. The model has 7 sites, but they have different prices because they tap into different populations. And that has given an economic equilibrium to the program. We don't have any outreach, except through an application. We reach 500,000 people now through an application that gives information. But we have not given voice to the people, to those who are sick. We have not used the stories. And I think there's a lot for us to learn from your experience. The counseling takes time, and it costs. And for a model to work where we give one consultation after another, and people come in from all over the country, traveling by bus all night, and they have no resources. So it's very hard to give the care needed, you know. We almost have to build a community based peer promotion, find leaders or people who are disabled within the different communities to be our voices in a way, and lead others, dignify visual health in all the ways. We have a lot to learn. We see so much unnecessary pain. People put lemon on their children are born disabled, and they say, oh, put lemon on their little eyes and they'll get better, you know, and they come to the hospital and it's just too late. And there's a lot of difficulty that we have. Glasses, people become accustomed. They don't realize that they need, or that they could see. You know, it's like, well, this is the way I am, and this is the way things work, and to be able to share that, I think, is difficult.
Yeah, we like to say people get used to gray hair and glasses. They go together. Or gray hair and blurry vision, as opposed to knowing that you can have gray hair and glasses. Like, you know. But just to leave us on one last thought, which is all of us who are working on the problem together. Well, was there another question in the room? No.
Somebody else would like to comment? Share your experience. Please. Thank you.
I'll be brief. It's just also because I made an impromptu comment without a microphone, and I think people online wouldn't have heard it. When we had the poll about what's preventing us from engaging with and including the voices of people who are needing eye care services, visually impaired and blind, I piped up and said something that's not there is lack of imagination. And that's really why this session is so important, because we're all so busy delivering and doing what we do and so involved with it. We sometimes forget who we're doing it for and what the ultimate outcome is. So it's just really important to have these times to reflect, and I really appreciated the session. I'm sorry, my name is Almeen Wolfart. I'm the editor-in-chief of the Community Eye Health Journal. And we actually have featured articles by people with visual impairments about how they experience eye care. And we've had issues on patient satisfaction and how to monitor. But we're not doing enough. And I just want to hold my hand up and say, I'm here to learn and listen, and we want to include people more, and we want to have people on our editorial committee and on our board to help us plan and decide so that what we are doing is really meeting the aim of what we do. That we have to keep that in mind. Thank you.
Definitely. It is a strategy we can work on in this in these new objectives we want to reach. I mean, we talk about elevating. We have to elevate the eye awareness among politics and everything. We have to innovate and bring IA, artificial intelligence, to diagnostics and to things. And of course, we have to act, no? And what you are doing is wonderful. You wanted to wrap up.
Oh, thank you. I want to reiterate the power of the story and bring the story alive. We were trying to get a legislator on board to support a bill. And, you know, we come in with our lobbyist and we present the great talking points that everybody takes so long to write out and we agonize over. But then somebody came in who was a constituent, so the right person relaying the message, and just told a story and said there was a mother with her son who was getting his driver's license in front of me at your BMV in your district. And the mother the son had to go up and take the vision screening to try and get his temporary license. He failed. And the guy called the mother over and said, "Do you know your son can't see in your right eye?" And that was the first time she realized her son had amblyopia that had never been caught. And now he was not able to get his driver's license. And the legislator was like, "That was in my district. I'm on board. I've got it." That's all we had. Like, it was the fastest meeting ever, and it was the power of the story. So bring the story, bring the right person, bringing the story to the right person, and make it personal.
Thank you.
I was going to say, with reaching the audiences, in film, sometimes, you know, the true creatives, they start with an idea and they go from there. When I do films, I actually start with the audience first. I actually go with who am I wanting to reach? What is the message I'm trying to tell? I have a marketing plan. I use data analytics and I go, how do these people engage in the topic that I'm trying to talk to? Like I know, for example, the Olympics, Paralympics are coming up, right, in Paris. I know that online when we put in vision impairments, Paralympian, all the stuff that's aligned with My Eyes, the film, 400% times is the amount of data about eye care and vision impairments. It's a very powerful time. So leveraging that information, because we want to make sure it reaches our audience. There's no point in having a great story if we don't hit the people we're trying to tell it to. So there's a lot of back research. We work backwards, actually, and then we create and we form the story that way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think there's something about, just a final comment, just about that sort of working backwards and thinking about where you want to end up and what the outcome is. And Gloria talked about having people out there in the community, and it's having the right voices, isn't it, who are doing some of the work in communities so that when a situation of vision loss arises, perhaps some of those preconceptions or misunderstandings about, for example, what glasses might do, or, you know, what people can do who can't see, any of those misconceptions, so that some of that groundwork is already done. And it is about having people out there in communities who are informed and who are sort of ready and able to be sort of ambassadors for the cause, if you like. But you can't just expect them to turn up on day one and be perfect. So it's also about, you know, and recognizing that people need training, the building, the expertise, you know. Just because somebody's blind or vision impaired doesn't mean they're the right person to be taking your message out there or to really be in the communities you're working with.
Well, it's been wonderful, wonderful. Time is up now, and we have homework. And I find that to envision, turning back to your imagination, yes, we have to reimagine the possibility to involve, to respect, to engage, and catalyze the voices both of patients and consumers to make a change. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you. You were wonderful. very heartfelt. I'm very grateful. Thank you. Lunchtime. See you in 75 minutes. Thank you.